You ready, baby? What? 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 Put that pussy in my face. Put that pussy in my face. No sex going on to that pussy in my face. No. Put that pussy in my face. Put that pussy in my face. No sex going on to that pussy in my face.
No sex going on to my pussy getting A. A nasty motherfucker can't eat that pussy up at the same damn time while I call my girl the superhead when I love it cause they keep that pussy wet. Yeah, he's a vegetarian but he love that pussy meat. Put that pussy in his face till that nigga can't breathe. Gonna learn about this pussy when he satisfy me. Make it nasty, make it wet. Don't you play with me, bitch. Spell my name alphabet, tongue on the click. He said he got a wife, but he say I'm the best. It is what it is. That pussy on his chest. That pussy lead a station next stop on his face.
Put that pussy in my face.
Put that pussy in his face.
Put that pussy in my face. No sex going on to that pussy in my face.
No sex going on to my pussy getting A.
Put that pussy in my face. Put that pussy in my face. No sex going on to that pussy in my face.
No sex going on to my pussy getting A.
Be like ass up, face down, just the way I like it. Pussy on my face, show a nigga you can bite it. Tongue move fast, nickname grease lightning. Call your girl up, show a nigga you can drive that. Pussy on my face, that pussy on my face. She riding that dick like she riding that dick. I said that pussy on my face, that pussy on my face. She blowing all the money like that money ain't a thing. That bitch the nasty time, so a nigga got right. She opened up her legs, I got whipped cream for the night. They want the nuts, I left her spoon, and I ain't listen to you. That's my little booty thing, oh I'm cutting up. Bow, bow, put that pussy in my face. Bow, no sex going on to that pussy in my face. So that pussy in my face, put that pussy in my face. Put that pussy in my face. Sex. Oh yeah, hold on, I'm about to turn this bitch up. For all my bad bitches here that love to dance, we about to turn this bitch up. Uh-oh. That bitch bustin', bust that pussy open. That bitch bustin', bust that pussy open. Let that pussy breathe. Let that pussy breathe. Let that pussy, let that pussy, let that pussy breathe. That bitch bustin', bust that pussy open. That bitch bustin', bust that pussy open. Let that pussy breathe. Let that pussy breathe. Let that pussy, let that pussy, let that pussy breathe. She got the Filipino, how she let that pussy breathe. Her hands on her knees, all I see that booty me. There's a nigga like ooh, and a nigga like me. So I met her at the bar, asked her what she wanna drink. It ain't drinking if I got it. Charlie niggas poppin'. Go up the trunk with a Trojan in my pocket. Is you giving? Well, bust that pussy open. Is you giving? Well, bust that pussy open. Let me whisper in the ear. Tell you what you wanna hear. If you wanna let it bang, they gotta get real. Now bust, now bust, now show a nigga love. Now bust, now bust. That bitch bust, bust that pussy open. That bitch bust, bust that pussy open. Let that pussy breathe. Let that pussy breathe. Let that pussy, let that pussy, let that pussy breathe. That bitch bust, bust that pussy open. That bitch bust, bust that pussy open. Let that pussy breathe. Let that pussy breathe. Let that pussy, let that pussy, let that pussy breathe. She gotta be a bad bitch. How she walk and talk, her body straight, buzzing. How she shaking bump. So I hit her with that pin bitch. She love her money talk. But that pussy wide open. Yeah, she do it for the clout. Put that pussy in my face. Pussy been that thing. Ass on a girl and I see that pussy white. That's that booty talk. And if that nasty shit I like, that's that booty talk. That shit gon' get me right. Digging on her pocket. Trying to see what pocket. Swinging on that pole. Trigger in her pocket. I can't lie. can't lie, I'ma beat that pussy up. I can't lie, I'ma beat that pussy up. That bitch bust that pussy up. That bitch bust that pussy up. What? Let that pussy breathe. Now what? Let that pussy breathe. Now what? Let that pussy breathe. That bitch bust that pussy up. That bitch bust that pussy up. Let that pussy breathe. Let that pussy breathe. Let that pussy breathe. Now back it up. Now back it up, girl. Now back it up. Now back it up, girl. Now bust. Now let that pussy breathe. Bust. Now let that pussy breathe. Now back it up. Now back it up, girl. Back it up. Now back it up, girl. Now bust. Now let that pussy breathe. Bust. Now let that pussy breathe. Woo, 'cause I need to breathe. That's badass.